Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. I'm Jeff Zito. We're streaming everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you listen to podcasts. And please hit that subscribe button. Really could use your help with the subscribing. Would love a 5-star rating. And please leave a review. If you wanted to check out all of our past guests and episodes, you can do so easily by going to celebrityjobber.com. I think it's fascinating to take a look at some of these people that we know and find out who they were before fame. My guest today is the bassist for a New Jersey band who kind of broke through in the late 80s, early 90s. Songs like 18 in Life, I Remember You, Youth Gone Wild. Rachel Bolan had a life before fame. Growing up in New Jersey, we'll find out a little bit more about his life before joining Skid Row. We'll find out about what his parents did for work, what he did for work before Skid Row reached their level of success, and maybe the big break or that life-changing moment. And FYI, Rachel Bolan releasing his debut solo album titled Gargoyle of the Garden State, set to drop June 12th. And you can check out the lead single right now. It's called At War With Myself and features Canadian rocker Danko Jones. Really great song. Check it out. We're about to find out all about Skid Row bassist Rachel Bolan, who's my guest this week on Celebrity Jobber.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, give a 5-star rating, and leave a review. Check out all our past episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you pod. What if these celebrities weren't famous? What would they have become? What was their first job? We're about to find out.
Hey, Rachel.
Wow, I was panicking. I could not find the link.
No worries. You know what? I'm from Jersey. I've been in this business for over 30 years, and I've never met you before. So it's
that's crazy. I thought
about me.
Yeah, I've heard your name a million times.
Right on.
I've never actually met you.
That's cool, man. You still in Jersey?
I actually just moved back about a year and a half ago, something like that. Yeah.
So I work at the Rat. So it's probably the station that you would probably listen to. But I grew up in Watchung Summit area for a lot of years. So
yeah.
I don't know what do you think it is, Rachel, about us Jersey guys? Do you think like there's something? It's like I always find a connection with the Jersey guy. I don't know why. I think maybe because everybody's against us. What do you think?
Yeah, a little bit of that. I would say. I mean, we're very unique. We're different than anywhere else in the country. I mean, New Yorkers are New Yorkers, and we're very similar in certain ways. But the thing with Jersey, I find, is we're natural-born storytellers, and my dad had a saying for people that told a story that they could really cut down to half the time. He used to say, "Ask that guy the time; he'll tell you how to build a watch." Type of thing. Right. But we are storytellers, and we're honest, bluntly honest, and that makes us feel good, even if it makes other people feels not so good sometimes. And that's something that when I moved down south, I really had to dial back, because I say stuff to people, and they'd be like, this guy's an ass.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just we're tough. I mean, Jersey people are just tough, men and women. Sometimes the women are tougher than the guys.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and we share a lot of similarities with New York and with Philly and stuff. It's this area, but Jersey is just different.
It is. It's something I don't know, maybe it was the Jersey Shore that kind of got people upset about people from New Jersey, to where real people from Jersey are like, wait, that's not us. But I think you're right. I think you know where you stand with somebody from New Jersey.
Absolutely.
They're going to just tell you flat out,
Absolutely.
And I think that's probably, you summed it up pretty well. So I had a conversation with Snake earlier on this podcast, and in its infant stages 4 years ago. And he said, I was working at a music store in Tom's River, and this guy comes in. He looks like a fucking rock star. This guy comes in, and it's Rachel Bolan. And I just ended up saying, like, hey, man, we should do something together. So is that kind of how you remember meeting Snake?
Yeah, yeah. I went in a music store that I used to go to all the time, and he was fairly new there. Um, and he said he was from Sayreville. I was like, why? That's like an hour away, man. That's like over like almost 60 miles away. He's like, well, I can't get hired up there because they want me to cut my hair. And I was like, I like this guy. I like his work ethic. And so he'd taken two buses to get there, and to get to work. And we hit it off. He dropped a lot of names.
Oh yeah, he was that guy, huh?
Yeah, he dropped a lot of names, but I was like, we got together, and he had a band, and I had a band. I had a band with Scotty Hill actually, and so
Okay.
we just got together and started writing songs. And I think silently we were both thinking like, wow, this is pretty special. And then here we are, 40 years later. You know what I mean?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So what about growing up? Your family, were they musical people? Or how did you
They
find this?
they liked music. Like everyone listened to music. I'm the fourth out of four kids, so there was a lot of music playing in the house. From my one sister's room, you had like Herman's Hermits and the Beatles and stuff like that. From my brother's room, there was always Jimi Hendrix and Chicago and Miles Davis. And then my other sister's room was like a lot of like Melanie and Carly Simon, James Taylor type stuff. And, I was absorbing it all. And then I found my own way, with Kiss and Ramones eventually and just stuff like that, stuff like, and then like Britpop,
Right.
like Bay City Rollers type of stuff that just, it's just kind of made for a young kid. And so just all of that and all of those influences and even influences on the periphery from the other rooms ended up on this record. I
Really?
mean, even if it's a tiny little part here and there, like my love of new wave could be in a bass line or, I want to play a guitar part that sounds like the keyboard part of that Devo song. You know what I mean?
Right.
Stuff like that. And that's what made this. I mean, putting a solo record out at this point in my career is special to begin with. It's monumental, right? For me. But to have all those influences just be put into one place, it's a pretty amazing feeling.
So you were saying in another interview that I was watching not too long ago that when you record stuff, this is like you said, this is your debut solo album, first time you've ever done this, and I heard you say like, hey, sometimes I'm writing all the time, and it's I know it's not quite right for Skid Row. Can you tell me what that means? Because
Yeah.
like I figure anything you come up with is going to be what Skid Row should be like because it's you. So what
Yeah.
does that mean when you're like, I didn't think this was quite right for Skid Row?
Well, first off, it's not just me because Skid Row is all of us that are in the band. So everyone has to feel good about a song. And so if we've been doing it so long, excuse me, that if you bring a song to the band, you could tell within a second if everyone's into it or not. If everyone's playing hard, like, oh yeah, and then digging in. And if everyone's kind of like, but they don't want to hurt your feelings because they're your bros, you're like,
Yep.
all right, just put that one to the side. So with all this, this stuff is obviously such a departure from Skid Row that, I wasn't hearing, soaring vocals or just, epic guitar solos and stuff like that. It's simple. It's like me. It's my attitude. I'm a man of simple. I like my life to be simple. I like my songs to be simple, and I write simply. So that's where it's easy to tell what's going to column A and what's going to column B. You know what I mean? And I had some of these songs for a while, and I still feel strongly that could not be Skid Row songs without changing the whole feel of the songs, because first of all, I'm not as good as Scotty and Snake. You know what I mean? I'm fortunate enough to be in a band with to me, the best rock guitar duo in a long time, like maybe ever, And so it would almost be like they'd have to dumb down their playing to play on this stuff.
I don't think so. I think the single "At War with Myself" is great, really catchy, and I'm a big fan of Danko Jones. So are you friends with Danko? Yeah. How did you get all the guys? Are they all friends? Because I did hear you say one guy wasn't into it, and he just said no thanks. So was that guy a friend, or and not anymore?
He wasn't. He was someone I really looked up to, and you take that chance putting it out there. You know what I mean? But yeah, everyone that was on the record were my friend. They are my friends. Corey, Danko, Damon Johnson, obviously the Rob, Scotty, and Snake, and Steve Conti. These are all my friends, and even more friends that did backup vocals. Ryan Cook, Paul Taylor, my friend Matt Farley. These are all true friends of mine that I could call at any time and say, "Did you see the game last night?" You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And so that made a monumental, special, occurrence in my life, that much more special that they said yes. And I didn't write songs around them, but I knew immediately, like, oh, Nuno should play on this song. I'm hearing that kind of Nuno,
right?
Just flash and soul on, which was Jet Black Universe, and I had the one song Rock and Roll Star. I heard Scotty, and when Scotty came in and did the solo, I was like, oh my God. Like he never, both Snake and Scotty, it's like they'll play stuff and I'm like, I am so glad I'm in a band with these guys and not trying to be in a band with these guys.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And everyone that did it, like I was like, I had the song written. Yes, I could sing it, with the exception. Well, I'll get to that in a second. Like, the songs that I'm eventually going to be singing, because obviously if I take this on the road, they're not going to be there. But I'd be like, man, Corey Taylor would sound really good on this song. So I called him and like, you want to sing this song? It's got a Sham 69 feel to it. He's like, I'm in. Send me the song. And so I sent him song, flew out to Vegas. We had 3 hours booked in the studio. He was done in 45 minutes.
Wow.
So he's just great. And then we talked about punk rock for another 2 hours. So and Danko, same thing. I didn't write that song around his voice. I was singing the whole thing, and then I was like, man, it would be really cool. Our voices are similar in ways, but there's a distinct contrast with his, because he, as nice of a guy as he is, he looks like the imposing person, like just like, oh my God, I'm gonna rip your head off and pee down your neck hole, and but he's just such a nice guy, and I was like, I think our voices would sound really good. And, and I love the way it came out. And he was so much fun. He came down, he did the video. He wasn't even in Jersey for 24 hours. Right. He just fit it in. And I was lucky that everyone said yes, and Steve Conti was the guy. I'm sure Steve. You're anyone in the Northeast knows Steve. He was in the Dolls and Company Wolves, and now he's with Michael Monroe. And I'm like, man, I know that I can't sing this song. We need someone with more vocal control and soul. I could sing faster songs. I could sing rhythmic songs, angst, whatever. But I know I can't do this. So I called him and I was like, man, would you sing this? And he agreed. He's like, okay, I'll sing the song, in his New York accent. And when he came back, Nick and I just looked at each other. We're like, perfect. It's a perfect guy to sing this song.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito.
I almost look at this like writing a book, right? Like it's like when you write your autobiography, when you reach this level of success, and that's kind of how I look at it for musicians, like coming out with a solo record, like you being a part of Skid Row for so many years. Did you ever do you ever do that look back that, you know, take a jog down memory lane. You look at yourself as a teenager. You ever just look back to you and say, man, this is wild. This is a wild ride. I really, because you have to admit the guys that aspire to be famous, to be a rock star, be an athlete. These are dreams that a lot of people have. The difference is the average ham and egger can't put that work or they don't have the talent to achieve that stuff. It's very hard. It's, one in a million shot, they say. So did you ever take that time and
To
look
reflect?
back and say, wow,
All the
I
time.
really did it, man. You do.
All the time.
That's
And
cool.
it happens every night as the intro rolls. I think of that before when we're on tour. I just think of it. I'm like, wow. I just look out at the crowd and I look at my best friends and I'm just like, this is amazing. We're in about 15 seconds, we're going to be running out on stage, living our dream again.
Right.
Every night. We're going to be doing it again. And then we run out on stage and the rush is just like to the point where I'm out of breath sometimes, like, because I'm thinking about it and the adrenaline is just like, and I've barely moved and I'm like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And my parents always instilled with all four of us and my friends is to appreciate the good things that come your way. And my dad would always say to me, he had a lot of stuff that didn't seem to make sense as a kid, but as I became an adult, it still pops in my head. But he would always say, whatever you do, don't be afraid of hard work, because hard work is what makes you successful. He goes, if you go and dig ditches for a living, be the best damn ditch digger you could be.
Yeah. And
you just work hard at that. And so it was funny. I was not digging a ditch, but I was working for before Skid Row. I was working for a landscaping company, and one of the trees that one of the crews planted had died for some reason. And it wasn't a huge tree, but it was like the ones by the sidewalks. And we had to get it out. So everyone was kind of digging at it and trying to rock the tree. I'm like, it's not going to, and the boss is standing right there. And he's like, I'll be right back. So I just jumped down with an axe and a shovel into a hole that was about 4 feet deep. And I'm just whack, whack, and I'm hitting it. And the boss came back with like, I don't know, some kind of, it wasn't a chainsaw, but it was something to make it easier to remove a tree. And I had it done. And I did it by hand. And I rocked it back and forth. Everything snapped. The other guys grabbed it and pulled it out. And the boss helped me out. And he goes, if you work as half as hard on your music as you worked at getting that dead tree out of the ground, because you're going to make it. And I'll never forget that.
Well, that's big. That's big. It's something you took with you forever. At one of your first jobs.
Yep.
Can you remember, was that your first job, landscaping? What was your very first job?
No, my very first job was working at Seaside. Well, not counting working with my dad. Like, he built houses, so I would go and do little stuff like, here, cut 15 of these 2x4s, like doing little stuff like that.
Right.
But my first job where I was getting paid by a boss and had to deal with a boss was working up on Casino Pier.
Oh, man.
At a basketball, and I wasn't old enough to drive, so I was probably like, I don't know, 14-ish.
Right.
So I was up there and I have to deal with just all the drunk Guidos that came down. They take
yeah. And back then, Seaside had a bad reputation back then, I bet, right? Not like now. Now.
Yeah. And so I'd be there and I'm this scrawny little kid and these guys are trying to impress their girlfriends and they're missing it. They had to throw a basketball into a hoop. And the hoops were slightly smaller, and they told us to inflate the basketballs so they bounce.
Yeah.
And so I'd always get harassed, especially if he had his girlfriend with him, and he'd take, like, behind me was where the ocean pretty much was, the average ocean was what, the waves were breaking there, and the beach.
Right.
So they take these basketballs and they whip them in right over the whole thing into the ocean. And sometimes they'd stay on the beach. Most of the time they got washed out into the ocean. And then My boss told me to go get it after my shift was over. I go, you want me to swim out into the ocean to get the balls? He's like, you got to go get them. He goes, go get a net or something. I go, they're 50 feet out. They're like,
Right.
they're like almost at where they break. The
And
waves
it's
are
at
breaking.
night. I'm not going out there.
I'm not going out. So anyway, I got a couple. I walked down there and I'm like, I watched for him to leave. I was like, I'm not getting these balls. And then one came in. I brought one up and I put it. And I was dealing with that every day. That
Oh,
kind of
man.
stuff every day. Drunk guys wanting to pick fights with me because I had long hair, or their girlfriend said, "Oh, you're cute," or something like that. So these Guidos want to jump over the thing. So I'm like, "Yo, dude," So my dad's like, and that's what influenced. My dad had a saying: if someone's bigger than you, hit him with a big stick, and that's
Right.
where I got the whole idea for the song "Big Stick." So I was like, okay. So I went into Dad's workshop and I found his framing hammer. So I brought it to work. He's like, what are you doing with that? He was driving me to work. I go, are you using it today? He's like, no, I'm not doing any framing today. I was like, this is the big stick. He goes, you can't hit somebody with a hammer. You'll go to jail. I was like, I'm not going to hit them. I'm going to hit in their vicinity though.
Right.
And so sure as hell, some Guido started giving me a hard time. So I reached under and went, bam, right next to his hand. And he's like, whoa, this dude's crazy. He's out of his mind. And I was like, all right, now we have our boundaries.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. Celebrity Jobber.
So we're talking about like, okay, this is a big dream, like, did you think, what were you thinking if it didn't work out, if Skid Row didn't work out? Are you thinking that you were going to go into this business, or did you have aspirations to go to college, or what was your plan? Were you just too young to have a plan? You're just like, fuck it,
Well,
rock or bust.
Yeah. My parents were very supportive.
That's awesome.
Like extremely supportive. They bought me my first bass. They lent me money for a van so I could get the gear around. It's always a bass player with the van. So they were always supportive. My mom, I just had to graduate high school. She's like, because I hated school, man. I really, really hated it. I love seeing my friends, and I really liked a couple of my teachers, but I just I felt like I was trapped there, and I was wasting my time when I could be writing songs. And so sometimes I'd get detention, and I'd be like, finally, I had time to write songs, and I'd write and write. So, but my mom and dad were like, you need a plan B.
Right.
They go, we have all the faith in the world in you to do this, but you need a plan B. Because at this point, I talked them. It didn't take much talking. They knew I hated school. I had no interest in college. So whatever money they put away, I was like, can I please borrow that money for a van and for some gear that's actually going to work, And they're like, yes. So they said, but we need you to have a plan B. And I said, I have a plan B. I totally have a plan B. I didn't have a plan B. So I'm like, when I met, and then it brings me to when I met Snake, I'm like, okay, this guy's on the same collision course with success that I think I'm on.
Hitch my wagon to this guy.
And so we started writing songs, and they just started coming to us like that. But I didn't have a plan B. I knew what I could do because I knew a lot about construction. I knew how to build a house because of my dad.
Right.
He showed me a lot of stuff, and I between him, my brother, my cousin, we could definitely build a house.
Right.
But it's not what I wanted to do. And mom and dad were totally cool about that. And, I just, it was or bust.
That's very important though, having the support of your parents, because
absolutely,
if they didn't support you, I think things could have been different. Who knows? I mean, but I think that's very, very important. What about the moment that changed your life forever? there had to be, I mean, you probably worked gradually, a little bit more, 18 in life, whatever the song was that came out. But was there a moment that you can remember, defining moment, whether it was hearing the song on the radio, signing the record deal, a call from somebody, playing a show, a defining moment where you guys looked at each other and you were like, I think everything's going to be different for us here on after?
Yeah, there were a couple, and in different situations. With one time we were doing press in New York City, and we were on tour, but we flew to New York, and we were doing press for like 3 days. I didn't even go home to New Jersey. I just stayed in New York. So I went to see friends, and we went to the old Cat Club. And yeah, it was a Cat Club, right? In New York City. Or am I thinking? Yeah, the Cat Club. So I go there and I met a couple people, my friend Michael Alago and my friend Mary Gormley, who were both A&R. They did A&R for two different labels. Michael signed Metallica. Mary had a bunch of big signings. And we were all in town at the same time, and we were all kind of coming up at the same time. So I met them there, had a great time, met Joey Ramone.
Awesome.
I was blown away.
Yeah.
It was he was so nice and so cool. And I didn't realize how tall he was. And for a guy 5'9", I'm like, I don't even come up to this dude's armpit.
Wow.
But he was so nice to me. And so I grabbed a cab back because we had to start press at like 10 a.m. or something like that. It was already like 3 a.m. So I'm in a cab, and it was hot out, so I had the windows down, and there's a car parked next to us at a light, and it was on what was a super commercial radio station in New York back then. That's
well,
Z100.
it was probably what Stern was on, which was K-Rock, right?
No, was there Z100 back then?
Yeah, Z100 was like a top 40 station. Huge, huge.
Yeah, that's what it was. Where all the
Shannon.
DJs,
yeah,
and all the DJs had lots of reverb and delay on their voice when
Yeah.
they talk. So I'm in the cab, and all of a sudden I hear 18 in Life on there.
Oh,
and it's
man,
like,
that's a big station.
Z100.
Yeah.
18, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not listening to it on a rock station. I'm
Correct.
listening to it on the most commercial station there
From
is.
the top of the world, from the top of the Empire State Building.
Yep.
That's huge. Yeah.
And so I'm listening to this, and there are dudes that do not look like they go to our shows at all. And they were.
I know exactly what you mean. Like generic looking guys with like polos. They're like, these aren't rockers.
Exactly. And they were rocking out to the song, and we kept stopping at the same lights. And I was just like, this is so unbelievable. Like, no one's going to believe this story. There are no cell phones then where I could call and go, listen to this. You know what I mean? And I got back, and I barely slept that night because I was so excited.
Celebrity Jobber, the Celebrity Jobber podcast with Jeff Zito.
There was another point where, my mom kept ledgers of what all of us kids owed her, right? Owed, borrowed, because it was never like, we're giving you this money. It's like, we're not charging you interest, but we're loaning you this money. And it was a great character learning experience.
I'm sure you didn't think about it the same way you think about it today, but you sure appreciate mom doing that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I remember I got my first substantial royalty check. And it could have been $1 million,
right?
But it wasn't. No, it was nowhere near that. But I still owed them about $8,000. I went and cashed a check. I took the $8,000 out of it, and I just had them wrap it in those little money wrapper things. Yeah. And I go, Ma, and my dad's in the living room watching TV.
Right.
He was hysterical. Like, they both were really funny, but Dad was friggin' hysterical. So I go in. I said, how much do I owe you? And she goes, let me see. She takes out the big ledger. She's like, there's your sister, your other sister, your brother. Here's you. $8,000. And I go in my jacket. I go, pow. And I put it on the ledger. And
Wow.
she goes, how much is there? I go, $8,000. I said, we are square. And she goes, oh, you don't have to pay it at all times. The old man from the other room, I'd have let him pay back the goddamn loan. That moment, I was just
Classic.
like, ah, wow. It was a big moment. I saw, like, she was trying not to show it, but she's like,
That's great.
and Dad came into the room, gave me a big hug. It was great. It was
Yeah,
good.
man. That's a cool story. That's a
Yeah,
cool story.
it
It's
was
funny.
great.
Rachel, you seem like a pretty nice guy. And I'll tell you,
Don't let that get out.
I
You
hear
ruined
on
my
the
street cred.
I hear on the inside, you're tough. You're tough to be in a band with. I hear Rachel's tough, man. I know there's a lot of singers that are trying out right now. You got this really public thing going on with Sweetwater,
Yeah.
which is really cool. I'm following it. I even have some ideas of some guys, some friends of mine that I think would be good. And one of them goes, dude, Rachel, he's tough to be in a band with, man. Why, do you just grind these guys? Like just
No,
expect
not at all.
perfection?
I don't think I'm tough to be in a band. I mean, I don't expect any more out of anyone else than I do out of myself. Maybe that's what they're thinking. But I mean, you know, we've made a mark. We've made our own mark on music, be it small, be it big, whatever it is. So, we all, it's not just me, we all expect someone to put in the time as we all do and put in the hard work as we all do. Going right back to what my old man said, don't be afraid of hard work. Yeah, I don't, I think, I think I'm pretty easy to be in a band with. I mean, but I know that Scotty has said to me, he's like, sometimes, dude, you have your way of thinking and it's kind of hard to get in between those cracks. I go, I know, but I have vision and stuff like that. But,
Well, I'll guess I'll just end with this, and I know, and I have to. You got to realize I have to. So the Sebastian chapter, you guys have all made it very clear that that's a direction that was in the past, and that you're moving forward. And I do know that the fans would love to see at least maybe one last tour with the guys together. Is it even are you and Snake and Scotty, do you guys talk about it or leave the door open a little bit? It's just, it was just too much, just too much that
it is what it is. Right. It is what it is. We're here now. We're still Skid Row and we're heading into the next chapter of our career.
Right on. Yeah. Okay. Well, I gotta ask.
You really don't have to, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I gotta. I mean, because again, that's what I hear from the streets. Everybody wants it, but then they realize that there's a reason that it doesn't happen, and time moves on, and that's all that you have to say about that. So, Gargoyle of the Garden State. Are you the gargoyle?
I would be the gargoyle. I am the gargoyle. Paul McCartney was the walrus. I am the gargoyle.
The Gargoyle of the Garden State's the new album. It's coming out June 12th. And the new single with Danko Jones, At War With Myself, is out right now. Rachel Bolan, Skid Row. Great, man. It was a great conversation. Thanks
man.
For digging deep and telling me all about your family and your dad, and that's good stuff, man. Really good stuff. I appreciate it, man.
No worries.
Have a great rest of your day, and good luck with the solo. I love it. I really think it's great, and I think you're going to do really, really, really well with it. So
thanks.
Good luck.
Good. Yeah, man. Thank you. I'm really proud of the way it came out.
You should be. Thanks again. All right, Rachel.
Man.
Born James Richard Southworth, Rachel Bolan from Point Pleasant, New Jersey, grew up in a blue-collar household. His dad built houses and seemed like his old man really instilled that work ethic into Rachel. And he reflected on that several times during the interview, and seems like he got a real kick out of his old man. And he talked about some of his earlier jobs before Skid Row, and he was a landscaper. He also talked about working at Seaside Heights, which was kind of a beach town with a boardwalk, kind of a tourist trap. And on the boardwalk, there's a bunch of like pizza places and arcades and it's kind of like the county fair. A lot of games and stuff where Rachel was working by the basketball hoops, had to bend the basketball hoops so you couldn't really swish one in there and win some crappy Grateful Dead mirror or whatever the hell they were giving away, you know? I think it was pretty cool. It seemed like he had a pretty close family, and mom and dad, he mentioned several times, were supportive of his music career. And think about that, how important that is. Like, your son has long hair and he's in a band. Usually mom and dad would probably steer you away from that, cut your hair, get a real job. But they supported him and they loaned him money for a van and talked about how his mother kept a ledger of all the money that the kids owed them. And one of Rachel's most satisfying moments was getting his very first royalty check, which was, he said, a substantial amount. And he knew that he owed his mom and dad $8,000. So he took that money out, asked mom how much he owed. She took out that ledger and she said $8,000. And he slammed the money down, said, "Here you go. I'm all paid off. We're square." And that was such a satisfying moment for Rachel. And I think it's really cool and shows you how tight-knit that he was with his mom and dad. And that support that he got from home. Again, they must have seen something in him to support him. Because I would think most parents would try to deter their son from joining a rock band or making that their profession. Rachel also talked about a life-changing moment for him. He's cruising around and listening to one of the biggest radio stations, Z100, in New York City. I remember that station as a kid, and their motto being "Serving the Universe from the top of the Empire State Building." And Rachel's listening to that station, Z100, which, by the way, wasn't a rock station. It was like a top 40. So it played, all of the popular songs, Madonna, Michael Jackson, all that kind of stuff. So listening to that station, hearing Skid Row's 18 in Life, and he said he would look at some of the cars around him and people were singing along to that song, and they were kids that weren't going to his shows. Not the rocker type of kids, like regular, kind of clean-cut people singing his song. It was that moment that he said to himself, "Wow, I think we're about to do something big." I thought it was a great story. And I've heard 1,000 times how the band has kind of moved on from original lead singer Sebastian Bach, but I had to ask because that's what the fans keep asking for. One tour with the original band. And it looks like that ship has sailed. Rachel going to be touring behind his debut solo album, Gargoyle of the Garden State. Check out the first single called At War With Myself, featuring Canadian rocker Danko Jones. He's also got a ton of guests on this album, including Corey Taylor from Slipknot, Stone Sour. The album Gargoyle of the Garden State from Rachel Bolan, set to drop on June 12th. More details up on the website, skidrow.com. I'm pretty sure having a supportive family helped Rachel Bolan achieve his personal goal of being in one of the biggest rock bands of the late 80s and early 90s, Skid Row. Without that support, who knows? Maybe Rachel would still be working on the boardwalk, or maybe he'd go into business with his old man, building houses or landscaping. I think it all worked out for Rachel. Thank you for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast, streaming on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow on Instagram, celebrity_jobber_podcast. Also, youtube.com/the@celebrityjobber. Bonus content on substack.com/celebrityjobber. And of course, check out all of our past guests and episodes online at celebrityjobber.com. Who were these celebrities before they were famous? Regular people, just like you and me. Thanks so much for listening, and until next week, I'll see you then. I'm Jeff Zito.